Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Pink Nest podcast. Today, I'm super excited for this episode because I'm joined by Saskhia Menendez, internationally recognized music industry leader, advocate, and creative force behind some of the most impactful trans inclusion initiatives in the global music landscape. I wrote this down, and you have a really big bio, but I'm just going to take this out, and the rest will follow in the episode. Welcome, Saskia, into the episode.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you. We always start at the beginnings. So how was the beginning of your journey? What was the moment or experience that first drew you into the music industry? It's a vast industry. It's a demanding industry, but I want to know the beginnings.
A very good question. So basically, when I was a very young person at school, one of my teachers noticed I could sing. And I was like, oh my goodness, I come from two deaf parents, a very disadvantaged background. And they noticed that I had a really good singing voice. So they kept having me in, keep teaching me how to sing. And then I won a scholarship to go to a very recognized, well-recognized, globally recognized school for classical music. And I used to sing classical. So I trained classically as a musician in Oxford, which is a really great place to be. And I met some amazing people, and that's where my love for music came from.
Oh, that's so amazing. And did you always envision yourself to be some kind of an advocate or leader in this space, or did this come spontaneously during the time?
No, I've always loved music, and I've always wanted to find a voice. I've always wanted to have, a vision and a story. But I've also wanted to keep it real and just be myself. And there's been a gap in the market, so I wanted to address that.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And we know that the music industry can be a very demanding one as well. And it has a lot of challenges. As a multiracial trans woman navigating an industry, I'm sure that it wasn't always inclusive. It is getting better, probably. I mean, from my experience, it is getting better, more inclusive, more accessible. But I'm sure there were some challenges that you faced. And what were those early ones that you remember?
I think we still have the challenges now. I don't think they've really changed, to be fair. I think it's become more politicized, it's become more spoken about, but we don't see the representation, we don't see the inclusion, we don't see the education, and we don't see the role models that we need to inspire us, to empower us, to educate us, which is why I do what I do.
Yeah, I think education, it's a really big part, and I think just when it comes to technical knowledge and the background of the industry itself, I think UK it's quite good comparing to the European part, particularly when it comes to events themselves. At least this is my experience. I think in the UK, at least there is some education, like real education, proper education. You can actually graduate in this, while in Europe it's very much lacking behind. I don't know about the States. What do you think? How is it? Is the UK making progress in this, or is it the same as it was when you started?
I think, a lot of people look to the UK and the US for leadership, and we've always offered leadership. However, the UK's fallen way behind our European counterparts, actually, in all trans rights. We're way down the list. We used to be at the top of the list 10 years ago. We're now number 24 in Europe. So that goes to show how far we've slipped, especially in inclusion, diversity, representation, and education, actually. And people no longer look to the UK always. We've got so many people that speak up. So, yeah, it's about understanding. We all come from a different place, but we're trying to educate, we're trying to empower, we're trying to make sure people feel included. And they don't always do that.
And what do you think is the reason behind this slip? Is it just political, or is it, what do you think is happening? Generational change, or?
Generational change, funding, education, but it's also mainly around visibility. And who gets that visibility as well, which can be quite tricky because it's become politicized. So you've either got the far right or you've got the far left, but you haven't really got the centrist people, the people in the middle, or the real lived people who live that experience. So for me, it's about being myself, showing my story, but also bringing people together from all walks of life, regardless if they're trans or LGBTQ, IA+. It's about everybody, making sure everyone's included.
This just shows how important this work actually is. I want to talk about the Global Trans Charter and the birth of it. I think it's really revolutionary, and it's really signed now by 34 countries, if I understood correctly. Can you take us back to the inception of it and just explain a little bit more what it is all about so that the viewers and listeners can understand it?
So basically, I came into the music industry and I was often the only trans person in the room, often the only one, very isolated, very secluded. I noticed there was no protections for trans or non-binary individuals in music. And I thought, hold on a minute, I was looking at Black Lives in Music. They just brought out an anti-racist policy in 2023. And I was like, are you serious? We've only just brought an anti-racism code in the music industry after all this time. And it's it really offers protection, but it also offers safeguarding, it offers education. It's a tool and it's tools to use. And I thought, you know what, this really helps. So what can I do for my community that's not about me? Because I think the music industry is full of people with egos, personalities, and it's all about them. What can I do for my community that's going to build from the ground up and it's also impactful and helps others? Because I think that's really the difference between me and most people. It's generally about them. This is not about me. This is about everyone else.
That's a good point. I like it. Because usually people, everything is about themselves.
Well,
It's totally a great point.
It's tiring.
And now with the charter being adopted internationally, what does meaningful implementation look like to you, and to the people implementing? And how do you actually measure whether the organization are actually walking the talk? So,
a really good question. And that's something that I've always said is also about making sure that people are included and safe. But they also have a support sign-up badge. And every year we'll go around and assess based on pictures, social media, access, data. Because I think the main point for me was looking at data. Where is the data? What are the results? What are the stats? Because without the stats, you can't measure anything. We don't know where we are. We don't know how we're going to move forwards. So for me, it was about gathering data, information, seeing where the funding's going and how we can measure it based on that. And also what people are putting on social media and inclusion.
I think this is such an important bit because you have a lot of initiatives out there who are just about posting fancy badges, and then when you ask, but okay, what does it mean? How do you measure? How do you quantify even what you're doing?
Yeah, it has to be quantified, it has to be smart, it has to be specific, measurable, achievable. I've got relevancy to it and a time limit, so that always has to stay in place.
You're also a podcast host. You do so many things in your life. I hope we can have enough time together, actually, everything. But the Music Industry Insights Worldwide is the name for people. They can Google it. I'll also post a link in the description of the episode so people can find you. And you have reached over 400,000 views on YouTube, which is a massive number, if you ask me. So congratulations on that. What stories have moved you most? Because I know that we are all doing it for various reasons, but there are some stories that definitely land, probably.
For me, it's more about the people from the underrepresented groups, from places that you don't often hear from. Had a guest on the show the other day from Ukraine. Amazing. Had a guest on the show from South Africa. Amazing. I get to meet people across the globe, internationally, sat in my front room, just as we are right now. Talking to people, but learning, building meaningful connections, and also those relationships are going to last. And it's a support network for us all, and we're educating each other at the same time.
And isn't it interesting when you offer this kind of space for people actually just to share their stories? It's amazing how much people have to share and want to share. They just have nowhere to go to share it.
Exactly. And I think that's what we're both doing, right? Is offering a platform to people to come on board to help inspire, to empower, to educate, but also to represent. Because we're all from different communities. We're all from different backgrounds. We bring something unique to the table.
Absolutely. You're also a Brit Awards voting member, and I think this is also a position of significant influence. How important is it, the representation in these decisions, making spaces, and what responsibility comes with it? Because I think that it's a rewarding position, but it also comes with quite of responsibility, I think, as well.
It certainly does. However, it's become very politicized. The music industry in the UK has become very political. And I think that's where I struggle the most is I'm not a very political person. I'm me. I don't like to get involved in politics too much.
Me neither, yeah.
All over politics all the time. And I've noticed as policy and politics are changing, decisions are changing, the people on those stages are changing, and that representation changes with it. So I want to stay authentic. I think having a role as a voting member is great. There's over 1,700 of us. However, the representation on those, nominations are not always the best. We could do better for the UK.
I think with politics, so I think there is a correlation between the economic situation and the politics. At least this is how I see it. The more economically the country goes down, it's sinking. And I think this is very visible now in Europe and also in the States. The worse it gets when it comes to political situation. People just resort more to this, and there is more drama and more arguing, and the debates get more heated, and it's just who is against who and not who is working with who and so on. At least this is my experience when it comes to politics.
And I was really pleased to see that they have 4 new global superstars from the UK, and we've won some Grammys from the UK, which was lovely. However, it was non-binary and women that were the spotlight for this year. Again, I'm always pushing for trans representation. When I see trans representation, I'll be happy. And not fake trans representation.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to also talk a little bit about the challenging topic, which is, of course, the backlash. I think in every advocacy work, also with myself, it comes with backlash, and you will have people who will not agree, you will have people who will oppose. And I'm sure trans inclusion is one of these things that it's very heated. And it attracts resistance. However, it's the same with me as well. How do you navigate this opposition and backlash and just try to stay focused on the mission? Because it is challenging, and it can be very challenging.
It can be very challenging, but I'm used to it. I'm very controversial anyway, and being a trans woman, I've always had to deal with that. I think it's not a choice. I think it's something that you kind of get resilient towards. There's always going to be pushback. There's always going to be people that don't get it, but you just have to figure those ones out. And what I just try and do is give people time, give them understanding, give them compassion, but also understand where they're coming from too. Because a lot of people live in a place of fear or misunderstanding, and that takes time.
Fear is a big factor here. I mean, I also saw it throughout my career, because I'm a social worker by profession, but I'm full of tattoos, and I'm full of piercings, and I have pink hair, and I was never ever a corporate woman, although I worked for 7 years in really corporate environment. I had dressed in dresses and suits and skirts and everything. And then came events industry. And there I was able to be a little bit more free, and I finally fitted into the festival industry with all my tattoos and everything. But now, once again, I'm in a position of a founder, and it is a little bit, I'm back with, she has pink hair. Are you sure this is doable?
In music, that's all doable. Everything's doable in music,
Yeah. But it is interesting, like you said. I think a lot of it comes from fear, but also not understanding, but also comparison in a way, because people just feel threatened by something that they don't know or they don't understand.
Absolutely. And I was in foster care and a children's home because I was born to 2 deaf parents, and I find it quite interesting because I went through the care system and I wanted to change it, which is why I wanted to be a social worker. Then I went to college and I had to do health and social care, and I was like, why am I learning about SALs? Why am I learning about all this stuff that I don't need to know? I just want to focus on people. And it was so hard. So well done for doing that, because that's a heavy job. Very heavy job.
Yeah, it is. And it's also a very broad one, and also a demanding one. I agree with you. Let's talk a little bit about mentorship. I'm a mentor myself, so I know how important it is, and I know that you're also deeply committed to it. What advice do you give to trans and non-binary individuals who are starting out in music or creative industries in general?
Be yourself, to tell a story, to not be afraid, to not, base yourself on others, and don't compare yourself. Because I think a lot of it is about comparison and other people that have come before you, or the lack of representation and visibility. Don't be put off by that. There are safeguards. There are people working behind the scenes as well as in front of the camera to make sure that this changes, you know. And I think it's really about making sure that everyone is respected, everyone's voice is heard. So just keep doing what you're doing, and people are working behind the scenes to make it easier for everybody. What I'm trying to do is to build a path that other people can follow, a pathway. You know what I mean? Because at the moment, there isn't one. The talent pipeline's struggling. Funding is suffocating.
Non-existing, yeah. It's literally
Exactly.
non-existing, yeah.
Resort to their own opportunities and making them themselves. So this is what we've done ourselves, right? Is make opportunity and following your heart and staying true to yourself.
And also, don't be afraid to ask for help, because there are a lot of people out there who can help you and who you can turn to, and just reach out if you need any kind of help, mentorship, guidance, looking for a path, or just maybe shedding the light or something. I think that there are people out there who can really help. Just don't be afraid to reach out.
Yes, absolutely. That I agree.
Let's speak a little bit about intersection of race, gender identity, and industry reform. We touched it a little bit already before. How do you approach this intersectionality in your advocacy, and why do you think it is essential?
Because I come from a multiracial background. My mum's African American, my dad's English and Spanish, but they're also disabled. And also I come from a working class background, and I was brought up by my grandparents who were both World War II veterans. So have a lot of different understanding of different backgrounds and different beliefs and different ways of thinking. And also time, you know, and history has a place, because people understand what they learn and what they grow up with. So different people are coming from different places and different places of understanding. So being able to understand all of that stuff and unpick it, but also to relate to it, I think is extremely important. And it also really helps with marketing as well. Figuring out who is your audience, how do I reach that audience? How do I do that for the least amount of money, but I'm getting to the right people in the right places? So yeah, really, really.
Interesting enough, I was also brought up by my grandparents. So,
Yes.
yeah, it was lovely. I would not trade it for
They're
nothing,
always
really.
behind. I hear it all the time. My grandparents, they were.
Such a nice, it's a really nice memory. All right, misogyny. I love this topic. I really love talking about this. You contributed to the misogyny in the music industry. What were the key findings that stood out to you, and what systemic change do you think still needs to happen? It's a big topic, and there needs to be a big systemic change for sure.
We had two of them in the UK. The first one was under the Conservative government, which is the one that I actually took part in. The second one was in the Labour government, and again, I took part in the first one, talking about trans women and the fact that trans women weren't seen as women. But we also have to attain the same levels of you know, passing and looks and the way you get treated in the world as a woman, because that's what we're trying to be. So we have a double kind of duality of it. Some people don't see us as women, firstly, and the ones that do want to sexualize you or objectify you or treat you below the rest of us. So I think for me, it was about having that voice. But that got thrown out and none of the recommendations got taken on. So in the second one, they asked me if I wanted to put in some input, but they didn't want me to sit on the table or around the board with the rest of the women. So I thought, I don't want to do it. And I don't want to do it because I want to stay authentic. And if certain women don't accept the fact that trans women, especially that have had full surgery, and I now see myself as a woman, because that's how people treat me in society, is that people need to understand that. And unfortunately, not everyone does. So I didn't take part in the second one. There is an endemic of misogyny. There is an endemic of sexism. There is an endemic of women not being respected equally or fairly. And I totally understand that because I have to deal with it all the time.
And music industry is full of this.
It's awful.
It's awful. And in the events industry, it's even more awful because I think it's one of the biggest reasons is it's based on freelancers. We're all freelancers, and you don't have a permanent job, and you're always swallowing things you shouldn't be and looking away because, you know, you got to get your next gig. And it's a big, big thing that I think needs to change mentality-wise as well.
And this is another thing. They encourage you to speak up or speak out. But if you speak up and speak out, then they don't want to know. Or you're classed as a troublemaker. And actually, you're the victim. So it's this really awful power dynamic, sorry, that goes on, that you have to understand is you want to stay authentic, you want to be real, you want to push for change. But when you're pushing for that change, you're always going to get kicked back anyway. It's a really tricky one.
Yeah, I can agree. I mean, I'm always the one that speaks out, often to my disadvantage, because industry is it's a very closed industry. I mean, music industry is a very closed industry. At the end, we all know each other one way or another, or somebody knows someone who knows you, and yeah, the voices spread really fast. If you're a troublemaker, oh, watch out, she will tell you back. So.
I wouldn't say I'm a troublemaker, but I would always say that I would say troublemaker is the right word. I would say that I see a lot of things, but I will speak up on them. And it's not really about trouble. It's a pushing for change. And if you want change, and if you don't speak up, then you're complicit to that you continuing.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, but in their eyes, you have seen as a troublemaker. That's what I meant.
Yeah, well, yeah, sometimes, but it's not meant in that way, and it's not coming from a place of trouble. It's coming from a place
Absolutely.
of change.
It's absolutely, again, about not understanding. I think it should be rewarded to actually be able to shed the light or to speak for people that don't have this opportunity. I mean, it should be rewarded and not backlashed. So, yeah.
The issue, I think, is there are people that are afraid to speak up and talk. I think being through what I've been through and what I've had to go through in my life, I've learned don't always be complicit to that. You know, stick up for the people that don't want to speak up and for the people that haven't got a voice, because that's part of the responsibility of it. Yeah.
Looking ahead, what does a truly equitable and inclusive music industry look like to you?
To me, it looks like that we've got all different people from all different backgrounds, but they're able to flourish. They're able to get support. They're able to be understood. They're able to progress. Because at the moment, there's too many gatekeepers. And those gatekeepers are very small-knit. They all know each other and they all help each other out, which is great. But that's not bringing in talent. That's actually stifling talent, real talent.
Is there any next big milestone you're working towards at the moment?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm continuing to work on the podcast. I'm still doing lots of international talks around the Global Trans Charter, getting people to sign up to that. And yeah, I'm just going to continue doing what I do. I'm bringing out music. So that's my next thing. I'm working in the event space. I'm working in the media space. I'm working in the music space. Because my degree was in events, music and media management. So I'm quite well-rounded and we all work so closely together as a creative sector. We need to understand each other's differences, but also there's similarities and where we can work together on those, for sure.
And now one last question. Can you imagine we're already wrapping up? What message of hope would you share with our listeners who are fighting for change in their own fields, whatever that field might be?
Hope for me is always having a positive outlook, always knowing that things will get better. And there's always ups and downs in everything that we do. Stay positive, stay true to yourself, keep it real, and just be nice to people, because that really helps. That's really
my advice too. Just be kind, don't be a dick.
Yeah. No, don't do that.
Saskia, thank you so much for being my guest. I think this was a lovely episode, and I think people will get really a lot of insights and insightful information from our chat.
Well, right. So you're going to be on my show as well next, right?
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.